Hello, friends and future friends. My name is Kyle McConnell. My wife Brandy and I own and operate a commercial Angus herd in northeastern Colorado, offering finished beef with some of the highest quality protein from our farm to your forks. They are raised without injected hormones or growth promotants, grass raised, and grain finished. We're going to try to take some of the complication out of the cut sheet. First, start out by filling your accurate information of your name, address, phone number, and email. That puts us and the processor on the same page. Next, you're going to want to try to find out what is the right amount of beef for your family. I would suggest that you prioritize first your budget and then second your available space. Once you have a grasp on both of those, your options are quarter, half, and whole. As a broad overview, we're going to start out. There's 7 primals on a beef animal. This is where all your cuts are going to come from. Each one of them has its own characteristics when it comes to marbling and tenderness and uses. We'll go through each of them individually and then we'll help identify where those cuts are coming from and what your options are when we get to them. For those who like the specifics of what the cubic feet requirements are, here's a nice chart. Your quarter is going to be 150 pounds, your half is going to be 300, and a whole will be 600 pounds of beef. For those who are more visual, the top left is a standard fridge with a quarter beef in it. The top right is a half. And if you're going to buy a whole, either a large chest freezer or 2 large upright freezers should do the trick. One of the first choices on the cut sheet is whether or not you want to keep the organ meat. Remember, there's only one per head, and if you're splitting it with another person or possibly 3 other people, there's a possibility that you might run into where more than one person wants that organ. Don't worry about it. Put it down if you'd like it. We usually have enough turned back that we can accommodate your needs. Moving into the heart of the cut sheet, you're going to see a lot of yes and no options. Yes is going to indicate to the butcher that you would like to have that cut packaged up and put in your freezer. No will send that cut to the grinder for hamburger. Starting with the chuck, your roasts are going to be your chuck roast and your shoulder arm roast. There's also the brisket, and then we'll have the option of soup bones and stew meat. We often get asked what are soup bones and stew meat. Soup bones are the bottom of the shank that is cut up, and it's a piece of meat with the bone, the marrow, and the meat around it. It's great for putting into water and boiling and tenderizing and creating beef stock. Stew meat is just 1 by 1 inch chunks of meat that the butcher feels is too good to go into the grinder for hamburger. The next primal on the cut sheet you'll come across is the rib. This is where your rib roast and rib steaks are going to come from. We're going to go through that on the next slide. You'll also have the option of keeping your skirt steak, your short ribs, and then an explanation of back ribs is coming. Your rib roast or also prime rib, you can indicate that you want to keep that whole, or you can have it packaged in roast size, whatever pound increment you would like. Your bone-in rib steak is going to be your rib eye with the back ribs still attached. Your boneless rib eye is going to be your rib eye without the back ribs. You can choose to keep your back ribs as ribs for the smoker or crock pot, same way as your short ribs. If you indicate no, they're going to go to the grinder for hamburger. Moving on to the loin, which is the most sought after part of the animal, is going to be the tenderest. It's going to have the most marbling. This is where your T-bones and filet mignons are going to come from. We'll talk about that in the next slide. Here you'll be able to choose from the top sirloins, steaks, the flank steaks, the tri-tip roast, and the sirloin cap roast. A yes indicates to the butcher to put them in a package. A no will send them to the grinder for a hamburger. When you get to the point where you are either going to get a T-bone or New York strip and filet, as you can tell, T-bone is going to be a dramatically bigger steak, and it's going to combine both the filet and the New York strip. You can have the butcher take them out. We suggest at least 1.25 to 1.5 inches on the New York strips and the T-bones, and then 2 inches on the filet if you go that direction. And welcome to the round, also known as the rump. It's going to represent 27% of the total beef in your freezer. This is where you're going to choose the round steaks, and then you can get them tenderized. If you do so, then bread them and fry them up. That is commonly known as the chicken fried steak. You also have the round tip roast, the eye of round roast, and then you have the option of jerky strips from this primal. The jerky strips are going to come raw. You can have them seasoned either teriyaki or pepper and garlic, or unseasoned, and then you can send them to the smoker and dehydrator at your place at your convenience, so you can finish them out how you so choose. And then when it comes to steak thickness, most generally we'd keep the sirloins and whatnot around the 3/4 inch, and then 1.25 to 1.5 inches on the T-bones, New York strips, and then 2 inches on the fillets is a pretty good way to do that. You can have them all 1 inch and 2 per package, however you choose. On roast size, you can count on 3/4 to 1 pound per person on boneless, and 1 pound to 1 1/4 pound per person and with a bone in roast. And then you can adjust accordingly depending on if you have big eaters, holidays, or light eaters and children. And ground beef is going to have options of 1 or 2 pound packages. You can also put them into 5-ounce patties that will come in a quantity of 4. And you can do half your burger in packages, half your burger in patties, or thirds where it's 1/3 1 pound, 1/3 2 pound, and 1/3 patties. You will also have the choice of freezer paper versus vacuum packing. It's going to be a personal preference, but if this is your first time buying freezer beef, I would strongly suggest getting the vacuum packing. You can see what the cuts are and you can see what's in there. The meat also lasts a little bit longer, it prevents freezer burns a little bit better. The downside to it, some of those packages will open, especially if you're rummaging around through your freezer. Once the package is open, it is best just to get it used up as quick as you can to prevent waste and spoilage. Even though you're filling out a form that seems pretty standard, you are still doing custom processing. Anything that you would like specifically done to the animal that you're having processed, you can put it in the comment section. These are just some examples of things that you can put there to ensure that everybody's on the same page what you're wanting. There's often anxiety when we tell people that we don't know what it's actually going to cost them until the animal is harvested. And the reason why is because we do not know how much that animal is going to weigh on the rail. At that point, once we have those pounds, we're going to times that by $3.85. And then anything on top of that is going to be processing. You can expect to pay somewhere around $1,050 for a quarter. With processing, that's going to be $2,100 for a half and $4,200 for a whole. You're going to get about 600 pounds of consumable meat out of a whole, 300 out of a half, and 150 out of a quarter. What it comes down to, all said and done, is about $7 per pound package in your freezer. So if you can imagine that 25% of the animal is going to be steak, or roughly 150 pounds, if you went to the store and purchased those for $17 a pound, that cost would be $2,550, which is representative of 60% of the animal. So most producers do not long feed their cattle, and we do. We get the extra weight and marbling. We think it brings higher quality and better palatability and better taste. Our first time buyers, we require a 25% deposit due to our demand. But our repeat purchasers, your balance is going to be due on pickup just like it always has. We typically have hamburger on hand for sale at all times at $4.15 a pound. And if you want to go more roast in your cuts or whatnot. If there's anything else we can do, please let us know. Again, we want to thank you for the business. Our beef comes with a satisfaction guarantee, and if you're not happy with our quality, I will buy it back. So you can rest easy knowing that your investment is secure. We are the McConnells from Haxton, Colorado, in the northeastern corner of the state. We grow crops, cattle, and chaos. And if you ever want to come visit and personally inspect our operation, we encourage you to do so. We always enjoy making new and strengthening old relationships.